The night was hot and sticky on Tulagi Island. Lieutenant Commander Robert Kelly stood on the wooden dock, watching flames rise from Henderson Field across the dark water. Japanese bombers had attacked again. The Marines on Guadalcanal were dying, and Kelly knew it was only getting worse. Kelly was 28 years old, but tonight he felt like an old man. His PT boat squadron had arrived in the Solomon Islands 3 weeks ago. Since then, he had barely slept. The Japanese own the night here. Everyone called their supply runs the Tokyo Express. Fast destroyers raced down the channel between the islands, dropping off soldiers and supplies before dawn. The American Navy could not stop them. But now something had changed. Kelly walked back to the operations tent, where Lieutenant Walsh was waiting. Walsh was the intelligence officer, a thin man with glasses who always looked worried. Tonight, he looked terrified. "Commander, we have a problem," Walsh said, spreading maps across the table. "The Japanese are sending 50 transport vessels to Guadalcanal over the next 2 weeks." Kelly felt his stomach drop. 50. They are changing tactics. No more destroyer runs. They're using slow barges and small freighters. Each one carries tons of supplies and hundreds of soldiers. If they succeed, the Marines will be overrun. Kelly studied the map. The transports would travel through the slot, the narrow waters between New Georgia and Guadalcanal. It was the perfect killing ground, but also incredibly dangerous. Japanese shore batteries lined both sides. Enemy float planes patrolled during the day. "What do we have to stop them?" Kelly asked. "You," Walsh said simply. "Your PT boats are the only force that can operate in those waters at night." PT boats were small wooden craft, only 80 feet long. Each carried 4 torpedoes and machine guns. The crews called them plywood coffins because one good hit would blow them apart. Kelly commanded 8 PT boats with crews totaling about 100 men. Most were kids, barely 20 years old. That evening, Kelly gathered his boat commanders in the tent. The air was thick with cigarette smoke and mosquitoes. Everyone looked exhausted. They had been running patrols every night, dodging Japanese destroyers and bombing runs. "Gentlemen, we have a mission," Kelly began. He explained about the 50 transports. "Intelligence says the first group will come through tonight. We're going to sink every single one we can find." Ensign Tommy Chun raised his hand. He was 22, fresh from the academy. "Sir, what about the destroyers?" "They will escort the transports. We avoid them if possible. We hit fast and disappear. That is what PT boats do best." The men nodded, but Kelly could see the fear in their eyes. He felt it too. Going against destroyers and wooden boats was near suicide. But the Marines on Guadalcanal needed them. 15,000 American boys were trapped on that island with almost no supplies. If the Japanese reinforced their army, those Marines would die. After the briefing, Kelly walked to his boat, PT-59. Seaman Jack Morrison was cleaning the 50 caliber machine guns. Morrison was from Texas, a farm boy with steady hands and a calm manner. He never seemed scared, which made him valuable in combat. "Ready for tonight, Morrison?" Kelly asked. "Always ready, sir. These guns will sing when we find those Japs." The crew finished preparations as darkness fell. The tropical night came fast here, with no twilight. One moment there was light, the next complete blackness. The ocean became invisible, just sounds of water lapping against the wooden hull. For T-2200 hours, Kelly's squadron left Tulagi Harbor. 8 PT boats spread out in a search line, moving slowly with engines barely turning over. The noise from their engines could be heard for miles, so they had to be careful. The night was moonless and hot. Kelly stood on the small bridge of PT-59, scanning the darkness with binoculars. He could see nothing. The radar operator sat below, watching the green screen for any contacts. The technology was new and often did not work properly in these tropical conditions. They moved northwest toward the slot. Japanese float planes sometimes dropped flares at night, turning darkness into day and exposing any boats below. Every man watched the sky nervously. An hour passed. Then 2 hours. Kelly began to wonder if the intelligence was wrong. Maybe the Japanese had delayed their convoy. Maybe they had taken a different route. Then the radar operator called out, "Contact." Multiple targets, bearing 320, range 4,000 yards. Kelly felt his heart start pounding. All boats, this is PT-59. We have contacts. Move to intercept positions. The PT boats spread out, each captain knowing his role. They had practiced these tactics for weeks. One boat would approach from the front, drawing attention. Others would attack from the sides. Through his binoculars, Kelly finally saw them. 3 large shapes moving slowly through the water. Japanese transport barges, each probably carrying 50 tons of supplies and 100 soldiers. They were heading straight for Guadalcanal. All engines ahead full, Kelly ordered. Prepare torpedoes. PT-59's engines roared to life. The boat leaped forward, racing across the dark water at 40 knots. The wind tore at Kelly's face. His crew moved quickly, preparing the torpedo tubes. Behind them, the other PT boats also accelerated. 8 wooden boats charging toward 3 enemy transports in the middle of the night. It was insane. It was terrifying. It was war. Kelly gripped the railing and watched the dark shapes grow larger. In minutes, they would either sink those transports or die trying. The battle for Guadalcanal was about to get much bloodier. The explosion lit up the night like a camera flash. Kelly watched through binoculars as the first Japanese barge erupted in flames. His torpedo had struck perfectly below the waterline. Men and cargo flew through the air. Boxes of supplies scattered across the water. Soldiers screamed as they hit the cold ocean. Direct hit. Morrison shouted from his machine gun position. "One down, sir," but there was no time to celebrate. Tracer rounds suddenly streaked through the darkness. Green and red lines of fire crisscrossed above PT-59. The Japanese were shooting back. Kelly heard bullets smack into the wooden hull. "Hard right rudder." Kelly yelled. The boat turned sharply, engines screaming. More tracers followed them. Searching for the small target point, 2 more PT boats raced past Kelly's position. PT-44, commanded by Ensign Shun, launched torpedoes at the second barge. One missed, disappearing into the darkness. The second torpedo ran true. The barge shuddered as the warhead detonated against its side. Water poured in through the massive hole. Japanese soldiers jumped overboard, trying to swim for shore. Some made it. Most did not. The ocean here was full of sharks that came at night. The men's screams did not last long. Morrison opened fire with his 50 caliber machine guns. The heavy weapons hammered away, sending streams of bullets toward the third barge. He could see Japanese soldiers running on the deck, trying to man their weapons. His bullets cut them down. "Target the fuel," Kelly ordered. Morrison adjusted his aim. His bullets walked up the side of the barge and hit the fuel drums stored on deck. The drums exploded. Fire spread instantly across the wooden deck. The barge became a floating inferno. Men jumped into the water, their clothes burning. Kelly felt sick watching it, but he pushed the feeling down. This was war. Those soldiers were bringing supplies to kill Americans. Better they die here than on Guadalcanal, where they would kill Marines. Suddenly, shells started falling around the PT boats. Not from the barges. These were bigger explosions. Shore batteries on Guadalcanal had spotted the fight. Japanese gunners were firing blindly into the darkness, hoping to hit the PT boats. "All boats withdraw," Kelly ordered into his radio. "Mission accomplished. Get out of here." The PT boats turned and raced away at full speed. Shells continued to fall, creating huge waterspouts. One explosion lifted PT-59 partially out of the water. Kelly grabbed the railing to keep from being thrown overboard. The boat slammed back down, and everyone heard the wooden frame groan. They ran south, away from the enemy guns. Behind them, 3 Japanese barges burned on the water. 500 tons of supplies gone. 300 enemy soldiers dead or drowning. It was a good night, but Kelly knew this was just the start. 47 more transports were coming. The PT boats reached Tulagi Harbor as the sun rose. The crews were exhausted but excited. This was their first real victory. They had drawn blood and survived. Kelly walked to the operations tent where Lieutenant Walsh was waiting with coffee. Real coffee, not the terrible stuff they usually got. Walsh must have traded for it. I heard you sank 3 barges, Walsh said, grinning. That is excellent work. 5, actually, Kelly corrected. 2 other boats got contact south of our position, but we lost contact with PT-31. Anyone heard from them? Walsh's smile faded. PT-31 made it back. Took some damage from shell fragments. 1 man wounded, but he will be okay. Kelly nodded, relieved. Keeping his men alive was harder than sinking Japanese ships. Over the next week, Kelly's squadron ran patrols every night. The Japanese kept sending transports, sometimes 1 or 2 barges, sometimes 5 or 6. The PT boats hunted them all. November 13th was particularly successful. 6 Japanese transports tried to slip through during a rainstorm. The bad weather made the radar useless, but it also hid the PT boats. Kelly's crews learned to listen for the sound of diesel engines and follow that sound to their targets. That night, they sank 4 transports. One was a small freighter carrying artillery shells. When Morrison's bullets hit the cargo, the entire ship exploded. The blast was so powerful it broke windows on Tulagi 3 miles away. But the Japanese were learning too. They started adding destroyer escorts. Destroyers were much more dangerous than transports. They had radar, powerful guns, and experienced crews. A destroyer could blow a PT boat out of the water with 1 salvo. On November 16th, Kelly's squadron encountered 8 transports escorted by 2 destroyers. It was the biggest target yet. It was also the most dangerous mission they had attempted. We need to draw the destroyers away, Kelly told his commanders during a quick briefing on the radio. Chun, take PT-44 and PT-52 west. Make noise. Get those destroyers chasing you. The rest of us will hit the transports. Understood, sir, Chun responded. His voice was steady, but Kelly knew he was scared. They all were. The plan worked. Chin's boats raced toward the destroyers with engines roaring. The Japanese took the bait. Both destroyers turned to chase the small boats. Their searchlights swept across the water, hunting for targets. While the destroyers were distracted, Kelly led the remaining boats toward the transports. They attacked from 3 sides at once. Torpedoes raced through the water. 1 hit, then another, then 3 more. Transports started sinking everywhere, but then disaster struck. A destroyer's searchlight caught PT-44 in its beam. Chin's boat was lit up like daytime. The destroyer fired. Shells screamed through the air. Kelly watched helplessly as explosions walked across the water toward Chin's boat. The first shell missed. The second shell hit PT-44 directly. The little boat shattered. Wood and metal flew everywhere. Fire spread across the water from ruptured fuel tanks. Chun, report, Kelly shouted into his radio. There was only static. Kelly's heart sank. PT-44 was gone. His friend was dead. Kelly stared at the dark water where PT-44 had exploded. His hand shook on the railing. Chun was dead. 5 other men were dead. Gone in an instant. Sir, we need to withdraw, Morrison said quietly. Those destroyers are coming back. Kelly snapped back to reality. Morrison was right. They cannot help Chun now. All boats fall back to Tulagi. Stay spread out. The surviving PT boats raced away into the darkness. Behind them, 6 Japanese transports were sinking. It was a victory, but it tasted like ashes. Kelly had lost his first boat, his first crew. When they reached Tulagi at dawn, Kelly went straight to the operations tent. He needed to write letters to the families. Chin's parents in California. Morrison's gunner's mate, who had also died. 5 letters total. The hardest thing a commander had to do. Lieutenant Walsh found him an hour later, still staring at blank paper. Commander, I have new intelligence, Walsh said softly. The Japanese are increasing their runs. They are desperate. Every night now, multiple convoys. Kelly looked up with tired eyes. How many transports are left? 32 by our count. You have sunk 18 in 1 week. 18. The number should have made Kelly proud. Instead, he thought about Chun, about the 5 men who died with him. What was the cost of this victory? But there was no time for grief. That night, more Japanese transports would come. More Americans would die if those transports got through. Kelly had a job to do. Over the next 5 days, the battle intensified. The Japanese sent transports in larger groups, sometimes 10 or 12 at once. Kelly's squadron could not be everywhere. Some transports got through. Most did not. The PT boat crews stopped sleeping. Mechanics worked around the clock, keeping the engines running. The wooden hulls took damage every night from near-miss shell splashes. Bullet holes appeared in the plywood. They patched them and went back out. Kelly developed new tactics. Instead of attacking head-on, his boats would split up. Some would create diversions while others attacked from unexpected angles. It was like a wolf pack hunting prey. On November 20th, they got their biggest target yet. Intelligence reported a convoy of 12 transports escorted by 3 destroyers and a light cruiser. The cruiser worried Kelly. Cruisers had 8-inch guns that could sink a PT boat from miles away. "We cannot let this convoy through," Kelly told his commanders. "That is enough supplies to feed the Japanese army for a month." He spread his 8 remaining boats in a wide search pattern. They would attack in waves. The first wave would draw the escorts away. The second wave would hit the transports. The third wave would clean up whatever was left. It sounded good on paper. In practice, it was chaos. The battle started at midnight. PT 37 and PT 52 made the first attack run. They raced toward the convoy at full speed, engines screaming. The Japanese escorts immediately responded. Searchlights swept the water. Guns opened fire. Shells bracketed the PT boats. Waterspouts erupted everywhere. PT 37's skipper, Lieutenant Harris, dodged between the explosions like he was dancing. His boat launched 2 torpedoes at a destroyer. Both missed. The destroyer's guns found their range. Shells tore through PT 37's stern. The boat slowed, smoke pouring from the engine room. PT 37 is hit. Harris radioed. "We are taking on water." Kelly had to make a terrible choice. Save Harris or attack the transports. If he saved Harris, the convoy might escape. If he attacked, Harris might die. PT 52, stand by PT 37, Kelly ordered. Everyone else, attack the transports now. Kelly's boat roared forward with 4 others. They split up, approaching the convoy from different directions. The Japanese escorts were still chasing PT 37 and PT 52. It gave Kelly a brief opening. He came in from the east, staying low and fast. Morrison's machine guns blazed, suppressing fire from the transports. Kelly picked his target, a large freighter in the middle of the formation. "Fire 1. Fire 2, he shouted. Both torpedoes launched with a hiss of compressed air. They raced toward the freighter. Kelly counted seconds. 10, 15, 20. Both torpedoes hit within seconds of each other. The freighter's hull ruptured. It started listing immediately. Men abandoned ship, jumping into the dark water. All around the convoy, other PT boats were attacking. Torpedoes hit target after target. Explosions lit up the night. Within minutes, 8 transports were sinking or burning. But the Japanese were fighting back hard. The cruiser's 8-inch guns roared. 1 shell hit PT 71. The small boat simply disintegrated. There was no time to rescue survivors. "All boats withdraw," Kelly ordered. "We got them. Get out before that cruiser kills us all." The PT boats scattered in different directions. The cruiser fired blindly into the darkness, but the small boats were too fast and too scattered. They escaped. Kelly circled back to find PT 37. The damaged boat was limping toward Tulagi, barely making 10 knots. PT 52 stayed close, ready to take off the crew if the boat sank. They made it back just as the sun rose. Lieutenant Harris climbed onto the dock, his face black with smoke. His boat was a wreck. 3 of his men were wounded, but they were alive. "We got 8 transports," Kelly told him. "Maybe 9. Good work tonight." Harris just nodded, too tired to speak. Kelly walked to the operations tent. Walsh was already there with coffee and a damage report. 2 boats badly damaged, Walsh said. PT 71 lost with all hands. That is 6 men, 14 wounded. But you sank 9 transports. The Japanese lost over 1,000 tons of supplies. Kelly sat down heavily. 27 transports sunk so far. 23 to go. But at what cost? He had lost 2 boats and 11 men dead. How many more would die before this was over? Outside, mechanics were already working on the damaged boats. Crews were loading torpedoes and ammunition. Tonight, they would go out again, and the night after that, until all 50 transports were at the bottom of the ocean. November 24th started with bad news. Lieutenant Walsh burst into Kelly's tent at dawn, waving a decoded message. "Commander, this is it. The big one," Walsh said, breathing hard. 20 Japanese transports are coming tonight, escorted by 2 cruisers and 5 destroyers. If this convoy gets through, the Japanese will have enough supplies to launch a major offensive. The Marines will be pushed into the sea. Kelly felt cold despite the tropical heat. 20 transports at once. It was 3 times larger than anything they had faced. His squadron now had only 6 operational PT boats. The others were too damaged to fight. When do they arrive? Kelly asked. Intelligence says 2,300 hours. They will come straight down the slot. Kelly looked at his watch. 15 hours to prepare. 15 hours to figure out how 6 little boats could stop a massive convoy. He called an emergency meeting with all his commanders. Lieutenant Harris was there, his arm in a sling from the last battle. Morrison attended as well, representing the enlisted men. Everyone looked exhausted, dark circles under their eyes, hands shaking from too much coffee and too little sleep. "Gentlemen, tonight is the most important mission we have ever faced," Kelly began. He explained about the 20 transports. If we fail, Guadalcanal falls. 15,000 Marines die or become prisoners. The entire Solomon Islands campaign fails. The tent was silent. Everyone understood what was at stake. "We attack in 3 waves, Kelly continued. First wave draws the escorts north. Second wave hits the transports from the west. Third wave finishes off any survivors. We coordinate our attacks so the Japanese cannot respond to everything at once." "Sir, 6 boats against 2 cruisers." Harris asked. "Those cruisers will blow us apart. That is why we use darkness and speed. We stay spread out. Never give them a concentrated target. Hit fast and disappear. That is what PT boats do best." Morrison raised his hand. "Commander, what if some of us do not make it back?" Kelly met his eyes. "Then we do not make it back. But those transports do not reach Guadalcanal. That is the mission." At 2200 hours, the 6 PT boats left Tulagi Harbor. The night was hot and moonless. Perfect for an attack. Perfect for dying. Kelly's squadron moved north toward the slot. Each boat was alone, spread across 5 miles of ocean. They communicated by radio in whispers, afraid the Japanese might hear. A T-23-15 radar picked up the convoy. It was enormous. The screen showed at least 30 vessels moving south in a tight formation. "All boats, this is PT-59. Enemy convoy spotted. Execute attack plan. First wave go now." PT-37 and PT-62 accelerated toward the convoy from the north. Their engines roared across the water. Within minutes, Japanese searchlights found them. The 2 cruisers and 3 destroyers turned to engage the threat. Shells filled the air. The 2 small boats dodged frantically. PT-37 launched torpedoes at a destroyer, missing by yards. PT-62 tried to slip past, but a cruiser's guns found the range. Shells straddled the small boat. One hit the forward deck. Wood and metal exploded. The boat kept moving, but smoke poured from the damaged bow. While the escorts were distracted, Kelly led the second wave. 3 PT boats approached the convoy from the west. They came in fast and low, nearly invisible against the dark water. Kelly picked his targets. 3 large transports in the center of the formation. He aimed PT-59 directly at them. "Steady," he told his helmsman. "Steady. Fire 1. Fire 2. Both torpedoes launched. Kelly immediately turned hard left. Behind him, PT-43 and PT-51 also fired. 6 torpedoes raced toward the transports. The first explosion came 8 seconds later. A transport's side ruptured. The ship lurched violently. The second torpedo hit a different transport. Then a third hit. Within 30 seconds, 3 transports were sinking. Morrison opened fire with his machine guns, raking the deck of a 4th transport. He could see Japanese soldiers scrambling for cover. His bullets found fuel drums. Fire erupted across the ship, but now the Japanese escorts realized what was happening. A destroyer broke off from chasing PT-37 and charged toward Kelly's boats. Its 5-inch guns opened fire. Shells screamed overhead. All engines ahead flank. Kelly shouted. PT-59 surged forward, running at maximum speed. Behind them, explosions walked across the water as the destroyer tried to find the range. PT-43 was not so lucky. A shell hit its engine room. The boat stopped dead in the water. The destroyer's searchlight caught it. More shells followed. PT-43 exploded in a ball of fire. 8 men died instantly. PT-43 is gone, someone shouted on the radio. Kelly had no time to mourn. A cruiser was turning toward him now. Its 8-inch guns could kill him from 3 miles away. He had to get out of range. Third wave attack now. Kelly ordered into his radio. Keep them busy. The last 2 PT boats, PT-29 and PT-18, raced in from the south. They attacked the convoy from behind, launching torpedoes at the rear transports. More explosions. More ships sinking. The battle spread across 10 miles of ocean. Flames from burning transports lit up the night. Tracers crisscrossed the sky. Ships exploded. Men died. The water became a graveyard that Kelly's boat dodged between shell splashes, running south at full speed. A destroyer followed them, guns blazing. Shells hit the water just behind them. The boat shook from the concussion. "Skipper, we have a problem," the engineer shouted from below. "Engine 2 is overheating. We need to slow down." "Negative," Kelly yelled back. "Keep it running. That destroyer will kill us if we slow down." The engine screamed in protest, but kept running. They raced through the darkness, the destroyer slowly falling behind. WWII in the morning, the battle was over. The PT boats regrouped south of Guadalcanal. Kelly counted boats. Only 4 made it back. PT-43 and PT-62 were gone. 14 men dead. 10 wounded, but they had done it. Intelligence would later confirm they sank 14 of the 20 transports. The remaining 6 turned back to Japanese bases, unwilling to risk the waters near Guadalcanal. Kelly sat on his damaged boat as dawn broke. His uniform was torn and burned. His face was black with smoke. His hands would not stop shaking, but they had won. The convoy was destroyed. The Marines on Guadalcanal were safe for now. The sun rose over Tulagi Harbor on November 25th. Kelly stood on the dock, watching mechanics swarm over the damaged PT boats. His squadron had started with 8 boats 2 weeks ago. Now only 4 remained operational. The others were at the bottom of the ocean or too damaged to repair. Lieutenant Walsh approached with a message in his hand. He looked different somehow. Less worried. Almost happy. "Commander, you need to read this," Walsh said, handing over the paper that IT was from Naval Intelligence. The message confirmed that the Japanese High Command had canceled all further transport runs to Guadalcanal. After losing 38 of 50 transports, they could not sustain the losses. The Imperial Army on Guadalcanal would receive no more supplies. Kelly read the message twice. Then a third time. They had done it. 6 small wooden boats had stopped the entire Japanese supply effort. "We won," Walsh said quietly. "The Marines are going to survive. Guadalcanal is secure." Kelly should have felt joy. Instead, he felt empty. He walked to the small cemetery on the hill above the harbor. 19 wooden crosses marked fresh graves. Chin was there, Harris's gunner's mate. The crew of PT-43. The crew of PT-71. Boys who would never go home. That he stood there for a long time, thinking about the cost of victory. Over the next week, the remaining Japanese transports made desperate attempts to reach Guadalcanal. Small groups of fast barges tried to slip through at different times and places. Kelly's exhausted crews continued hunting them. That on November 27th, they intercepted 3 barges near Vella La Vella. Morrison's machine guns set 2 on fire. The third escaped into a rain squall. That on November 29th, PT 59 and PT 29 caught 4 barges to try to land supplies at night. They sank all 4. Japanese soldiers swam for shore, but many did not make it. The sharks came quickly. December 1st brought the last major action. 6 Japanese barges escorted by a single destroyer attempted a supply run. Kelly's 4 boats attacked just before dawn. They sank 5 barges. The 6th made it to shore but ran aground. Japanese soldiers unloaded what supplies they could before American aircraft destroyed the wreck at first light. After that, the Japanese stopped trying. The waters around Guadalcanal belonged to the Americans now. On December 4th, Kelly received orders to report to Admiral Halsey's headquarters. He flew there in a battered transport plane, still wearing his torn uniform. He had not had time to get a new one. Admiral Halsey was a tough old sailor who hated the Japanese with a passion. He looked at Kelly with sharp eyes. "Commander Kelly, your squadron has done exceptional work. 38 confirmed transport sinkings in 2 weeks. That is more than any other unit in the Pacific." "Thank you, sir. My men fought well." "Your men died well," Halsey said bluntly. 19 dead, 23 wounded. You lost half your squadron, but you saved Guadalcanal. The Japanese army there is starving. They are eating grass and tree bark. In another month, they will surrender or die. Kelly said nothing. What could he say? "I am putting your squadron in for commendations," Halsey continued. "Navy crosses for you and your surviving commanders. Silver stars for the enlisted men. Your dead will receive them posthumously." A week later, there was a ceremony on Tulagi. What remained of Kelly's squadron stood in formation. They wore clean uniforms for the first time in weeks. Admiral Halsey himself pinned medals on their chests. Ensign Chin's Navy Cross was accepted by Lieutenant Walsh, who would send it to Chin's parents. Lieutenant Harris, still recovering from his wounds, received his medal in a hospital bed. Morrison was promoted to Petty Officer First Class and received a Silver Star. When it was over, Kelly walked down to the docks. A supply convoy was arriving at Guadalcanal across the water. American ships bringing food, ammunition, and reinforcements to the Marines. Henderson Field was safe. The airstrip that had cost so much blood to capture would remain in American hands. The Marines would go on the offensive now. They would push the Japanese off Guadalcanal completely. Then they would move north, island by island, toward Japan itself. The war was far from over. It would take 3 more years and millions more deaths before Japan surrendered. But tonight, this small piece of ocean was secure. Kelly's squadron had made that possible. Morrison found him on the dock, smoking a cigarette and watching the convoy. "Skipper, the boys wanted me to ask you something," Morrison said. "What is it?" "When we go back out, there are still Japanese ships out there." Kelly looked at his gunner. Morrison's hands were scarred from handling the hot machine guns. His face was thin from too little food and too much stress. But his eyes were steady. "Ready. Soon," Kelly said. "They are bringing us 4 new boats next week. Fresh crews from the States. We will train them, then go back on patrol." Morrison nodded and walked away. Kelly stayed on the dock. Finishing his cigarette, he thought about Chun, who had wanted to be a teacher after the war. About the young sailor from PT 43 who played harmonica every night. About all the boys who would never see home again. War was not glorious. It was not heroic. It was young men dying in the dark, far from home, for reasons they barely understood. But sometimes it was necessary. Sometimes evil had to be fought, no matter the cost. The Japanese had started this war with their attack on Pearl Harbor. They had chosen to invade peaceful countries, to murder civilians, to enslave entire populations. Someone had to stop them. Kelly's PT boat squadron had done their part. 38 transports sunk. Thousands of Japanese soldiers sent to the bottom of the ocean. Guadalcanal saved. The cost had been terrible. 19 good men dead. 23 wounded. 4 boats destroyed. But the mission was accomplished. Kelly finished his cigarette and flicked it into the water. Tomorrow he would start training the new crews. The war was not over. There would be more battles, more dark nights, more death. But tonight, he allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. They had fought well. They had won. The young men who died had not died for nothing. Across the water, Henderson Field's lights blazed in the darkness. American fighters and bombers sat on the runway, ready to strike at Japanese positions. The Marines were safe. The Solomon Islands were secure. It was enough.